Good morning.
Morning. And team.
And team.
Good morning.
We're here this morning to interview marketing managers. The project is marketing in the real world. So all of the theory that we're learning about, we were sent to go out and talk to actual real practitioners to find out how they translate that theory into their job.
Right.
So this project, it's a group project.
Mhm.
We are Eastern Innovators,
Okay.
a group formed by Jack, but we have been performing, I guess based on our personalities, we really balance each other out. There is one more team member, Dury Arthur, CEO of Block Security, among others, but he had a presentation to do for a project he's bidding on, so he could not join us this morning. I beg your pardon?
Business before pleasure.
Business before school. So the team is Kevin Bertrand, who is the managing director of BWS Limited, Dave Griffith, business consultant, LED Consultants, and Lizelle Davis Seapol in my capacity as principal consultant, Prosam Consulting. The project, as I mentioned, is to see the role that marketing plays in the 21st century. And we are here today with Marsha O'Neill, manager of channel management, and Lisa McCarthy, marketing manager, product development,
Deposits and investments.
deposits and investments.
Good morning, ladies. Before we get into the meat of the interview, just to generalize, these questions are for both of you all. I'd like to find out how both of you all came involved in marketing functions. Would like to go first?
Well, actually at university I was part of the mentorship program at university, and I was assigned, my mentors actually had a senior position in the field of marketing and communication. So from then on I been assigned to who I liked the job, and I decided to specialize in marketing at university. So that's basically how I got involved in marketing.
Well, my own was an evolution, because I started off in PR, communication, and then evolved to marketing. And it is basically going up through the bank. That's how I ended up in marketing.
How long have you been in the position?
My stint is a lot shorter than Marsha. Officially, it's a little less than a year.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
And Marsha is quite a bit longer.
Yeah, I've been a marketing manager for the bank for 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
Is marketing your chosen career?
Well, I would say yes, because people that actually engage in marketing in the real world are actually involved in a wide range of duties. You're involved in from developing campaigns, to negotiating contracts, to developing creative briefs, looking at the creative, as well as project management in terms of developing projects to bring new products and services into the market. You're also involved in like a little bit of accounting, budgeting. So it's really, it's a field that you involve in a lot of things. You learn a lot in the bank. I mean, in terms of technology, processes, procedures, legal parts of things, economic aspect. So I mean, it's what I love.
A chosen career, yes, but my greater passion is with project management. But as Marsha rightly said, marketing encompasses all of those areas. I guess everybody would be stronger in some areas than others, but it encompasses, everything. You touch on every single thing. So whether it's a chosen career or not, it's interesting because it has so many facets to it. But my strength would be on the project management side of it.
In your role as, manager product development, you would use the project management skills. What exactly is product development? Before we go any further.
Well, it's exactly what it says. You have to review your products I mean, because I know that's one of the
That's coming,
later
yeah.
questions, but you have to review your products continuously to keep competitive. Else, if you don't, obviously you know what will happen. So it is to look and see first what is out there, either restructure your product or create a need for another product that you know, see the needs in the market and create a product for that. So all of that is encompassed in product development and making sure that you're top of mind, you're competitive, you know, you have the competitive advantage, you have USPs to make your product stand out from the rest. While generating revenue, which is important.
It's interesting. Could you tell us some of the memorable moments of your job?
Well, I guess the memorable moments would be all the successes that you've had. You learn from I don't want to use the word failures, but you would learn from, you know, things that may not have gone the way you would have liked it. But the successes, and sometimes it's more I'll give you an example. It was very, very simple. We used a very simple channel, and it was the most effective thing that we did. We launched a newlywed. It was called gift registry before our newlywed package, and we rebranded it Newlywed. The name was created by the staff. They came up with the name. We did a little competition, came up with the name, and just in discussions, another staff member in here said, well, why don't we have an in-branch display competition? And that's how we got the brand out there. And I mean, it just took off with lightning speed. The enthusiasm from the branch, the enthusiasm from customers coming in the branch, saying, what is this? How come our name not here? How come I'm not a merchant? Why haven't signed me up? And it provoked a lot of conversation. And I mean, the output was very, I don't want to use the word minimal, but not as if you would go press, radio, all of that.
Right.
The output was not like that, but the results was total success. And I mean, I always remember that, the simplicity in it, and it made a difference. And you know, I said to them, you know, we don't leverage our branches enough because people come in there every single day.
Yes.
The traffic, you know, and it creates a conversation out there, and that's what you want. You want this conversation and inquiries, and that is what it did. It really did that.
And as you mentioned, the branch network that crosses over into channel management.
Yes.
So what are some of the successes
Well,
or memorable moments that you've had in?
Well, the thing about it is a little bit different in that, from my perspective, it's more about developing a new product or service and actually going into the branch and actually seeing a customer using it. That, you know, because, you know, you've spent 2 or 3 years developing it, because, I mean, these things are not churned out overnight, you know, because they're technology components. So actually, you know, all this work you've done 3 years and you've come up with a name, and then finally go into a branch and then you're seeing, oh my gosh, like somebody's actually using it and enjoying it, and is happy with it and is comfortable with it. I mean, and that at that point, you know, you say, oh wow, okay, these 3 years it's actually done what it should. I mean, and I guess the other part of it too is when we run promotions and calling a customer and telling them they've won $10,000, and then there's a prank call, disbelief, and then surprise, and then they're like, oh my gosh, you know, I've won something, I've never won anything. So those are some of the highlights those are some of the good highlights. I mean, the other sides of it, all the work that goes into it, and all the headaches and challenges. But at the end of the day, I guess the output is worth it.
Yeah, but in terms of the channel management, I guess, if we look at the strictly academic marketing stuff, deals with the promotion and the distribution.
So it's really, channel management is really how you distribute your service, or the channels that are available for the customers to use the service. So for example, it would be brick and mortar branches, it would be like your ATM network. So these are the ways that they interface with the bank to get their needs. So they go onto the internet banking, they use the telephone to get information. So those are actually the banking channels available.
But I'm kind of happy to hear you use some terms that I remember seeing in the textbook.
Well, I tried to at least give you
So it means that
it's worth doing your MBA.
I kind of on the right track. Right?
You're on the
When
right track.
when you talk about brick and mortar and
Yes.
USPs and that sort of thing, hey, you know,
Yeah, it's actually used in the real world.
yes, it's in the real world. So I'm not wasting my time.
Yeah.
But basically, okay, the organization, the Republic Bank, you deal with financial services. A wide range. If you were to broadly categorize your products, how would what would the categories be?
Well, okay, so banking products they're the same. It's a level playing field. Commercial banks offer more or less the same services. So what we offer loans.
Right.
We offer deposit products. We offer investment products. We offer credit cards, and we offer banking services like electronic banking channels. So those would be the broad banking categories, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'll ask with
Yeah,
broad
so those would be the
categories simply
broad-
because
Yeah.
I didn't want to say, well, okay, I have a savings account.
Yeah,
I
so
have
those
a
are the
checking
broad.
account.
So it's loan, deposits,
But-
investments, and electronic banking services,
Credit.
credit cards,
Yes.
which you could look at it as a lending
Loan.
kind of lending
Provide
product.
services to meet your banking needs, whether it's operational needs, saving or investment needs, you know,
Right.
that's, or your,
Yeah.
or your,
Right, so
I
that-
don't want to use lending, but, you know, your other
Borrowing.
finance, borrowing
Yeah,
needs.
borrowing
That's,
needs, yeah.
What I found interesting is that when Marsha
Mhm.
started to answer, the first product she identified was loans.
uh-huh.
I guess,
Well,
it-
the reality of life is.
it goes with
Yeah.
it goes with the territory.
It goes with the
It goes with the
territory.
territory.
Goes with the
But
territory.
in terms of rolling out the products to your
Mhm.
customers, target markets, segments, have you identified segments, and how do you go about? How does the bank go about identifying these segments?
We do have segments
Yeah.
within the banks. At the moment, we have three definitive ones, which is private banking, personal banking, and we don't say convenience, but it is your mass market, right? Now, within that, you have further segments,
Right.
Right?
And you have corporate as well. which would be
right?
a-
Because like in deposits, you would have, we go by age. So you would have your 0 to 12, which would be your right starters, if you want to call it like that. Then you go into the teenage segment, and then you go into the professional segment.
Correct, yeah.
Then you go into that in between professional and before you reach mature age, which will then be your major league segment. So within it, even those segments are further segments. And obviously, you have to speak and communicate to each of those differently because of one age, lifestyle, needs at that particular stage of their life.
Mhm.
So within the life cycle of the customer, you have to have products to meet those life cycle stages. Words were out in your book, right?
Yes. Yes, they are.
Yes, there's the words within the book.
Even with in Marsha's side and channel in IB, you have two segments there. You have the personal, and then you have
Right, right. So
corporate.
it's actually three. It's really personal, commercial, and corporate. And
Right.
within the personal, you will have your sub-segments. Within the commercial, based on bands, you will have but the corporate will be a larger. So in terms of generally,
Yeah.
that would be the kind of classification that we use within the bank and
Okay.
throughout different markets that we are in.
But these segments have been identified eons
These-
ago.
well, it's
And-
evolving.
Right.
It's evolving.
And on what basis do you
Yeah.
make the changes?
Sure.
Is it that you actually go there and look at it? How do you make the change? It evolves, but is it a natural evolution, or is it an evolution that is?
It's a process, a planned
Or is it-
process.
Okay,
That
so
plan
I think
process.
right. Okay, so the personal customer would of course be a non-business customer,
Right.
and within personal segment, the bank would try to have you migrate. So you start as, let's say, convenience. You have your savings account, and the bank really tries to be able to give you advice as to how best you can progress. Throughout, up the ladder, in terms of products that can meet those needs. So for example, I'm a university student. I've now started to work. One of the first things I may want is my first car. Well, how can we help you to make sure you meet that criteria? After your first car, maybe I'm getting married, now I need a home. Children, education. So we try to, move them along in terms of the account progression. In terms of, a lot of it is based on technology. I mean, that's another big part of it. Technology now, like customer relationship management platforms, allow you to be able to understand customers better. So you can actually tell the customer, okay, this suite of products actually will meet your needs, because they may not know. And I mean, that's what our job is really.
And that is actually how our customer relation management platform is structured.
Yeah.
You have a customer which you will, well, one of the basic criteria will be age, right? And other things that the system will pick up and say, okay, based on the criteria that I'm seeing here, I recommend these products to you, and that is an automatic thing. There's another part of the system where you can physically ask questions of the customer, right? Because you may not have all the data in front of you. And I mean, data changes, as they change in life. So you can ask certain questions, and recommendations will spill out saying, okay, based on what you have told me, we now recommend these things for you. And it covers everything: credit cards, loans, investment products, everything. The whole, we call it the 360 view of the customer.
Okay.
And this aids the sales officers in their dealings with the customers and to anticipate as well their needs.
So your CRM platform provides you the data to migrate, to help a customer migrate from one segment to the next. But the basic segments, personal, corporate,
right. Age.
that remains.
Age
remains the basic segment.
You just progress into each of these segments as you qualify fit if you want to
okay.
see.
All right. And those segments, based on, do you all do like research and stuff to identify?
Each company to survive in this world and this environment must have a market intelligence department.
Market segmentation research.
And that is a given. If you don't have that,
segmentation research, I mean, it's kind of standard now, particularly like in, I guess, consumer goods, things, you must know your segments and what segments are evolving.
Okay.
And I guess technology too now, and
it's
the
making
generation gap and all those things, you need to be on touch with the market.
Because we can sit here, and our market intelligence manager could sit here and set up a questionnaire.
All right.
Email that out to customers, get responses. You don't have to leave and go anywhere. That's where we have reached.
Okay. Okay.
You mentioned earlier that you continually review the products and services.
Yeah.
And how, in the recent past, has this led to changes? Have you altered products? Have you introduced new ones? Have you removed?
We haven't introduced new ones on my part, but yes, we have had alterations in fee structure, the benefits of the products itself, because you want to, as I say, you have to keep that competitive edge. So you continue adding benefits, or adding value. I shouldn't say benefit, adding value to the customer that is relevant to their needs based on lifestyle.
Yeah, and it may not necessarily be developing a new product, but it could be like a procedural change that will make the process simpler for the customer. Like, for example, mortgages before would have been like a month and 2 months in terms of it started the process to the disbursement. Now, because we have streamlined the processes, you can literally walk out with the mortgage in 14 days. There are steps you have to follow once you make sure you have your documentation and all of that. So in that sense, you make procedural changes, you look at the process, you try to simplify it, you try to be able to communicate so the customer understands what is required in each step, so you can condense that entire process. So that's another big part of it. I mean, if we talk about new products, but sometimes you have a great product, it's just what can you do to enhance it, make it better, make it easier. Maybe customers just don't understand certain things about the product. Understanding the gaps are, and then,
So as it's not a tangible product you're delivering, it's a service.
It's a
so
service.
making changes to procedure.
It's actually a big part. It's a bigger part
it's
of
a
it
big part
in terms
Yes.
of the service
of the
as
service.
opposed to
Because
Yes.
nobody wants to stay in a bank longer than they have to. So customer service, which is convenience, efficiency, and all of those things.
So to once they understand,
Yeah,
I need
tell
to
you
have
apart.
these documents to start this part of the process. This is actually the process. The process is really four parts, and they
Yeah.
understand what those parts
Mhm.
are, and they go in there understanding that, it's fast. They do things a little faster. Things can go a little faster than expectation too.
So is it safe to say then that you are doing a continuous
It's continued,
review
but
of
we
your
also do
products
like
and services?
product life cycle assessments too, are probably done in terms of structured review, maybe like every 2 years, like in terms of channel products. That is done every 2 years because it's more dynamic, in terms of, let's say, internet banking and mobile banking. Those are more technology driven. Again, the life cycle of those things are actually a little shorter.
Right.
It's because technology is changing. I mean, people no longer want to use telephone banking.
Yeah, they want to with my phone. I'll give an example with the evolution and change, and it's not that there were any significant changes, it's just how you provide the service to your customer. We have RightStart, which is an account for 0 to 19,
Yes.
right? Now, because of social changes, cultural changes, exposure to the internet,
Social
te-
networks.
teenagers,
Yeah.
right? Like when was eons ago, they have a right start, they have no problem with that. They don't mind being called a right starter. The teenagers now do not want to be associated with somebody
The
who's
younger.
considered an infant.
Yes.
Okay?
That's right.
So
Yeah.
we had to
Teenagers.
restructure the product to communicate differently to them. So within this same product, we had to create a segment called RS Teens to make them feel that they were different and unique.
Okay.
All right? And now that is even further evolving because most children, teenagers these days are on Facebook. So now you have to get into the social media networking to communicate and stay top of mind and develop brand loyalty and all of that with these teenagers. So you have to go where they are. So those are the things that you have to. I mean, we have Generation Y, Generation Z, Generation. So you keep evolving.
Well, actually, we just segued very nicely into the channel management section. And it's very interesting that you brought up social media. Because one of the channels that a lot of banks are advertising now is the
Communication
mobile
channel.
banking, and Republic does not have a mobile banking platform yet.
Yeah.
So how are you scanning the market, and what are Republic's plans for that channel?
Republic is developing. Republic is in the process of launching mobile banking very soon.
Coming
But
soon
is
to a
it
phone
it
near
is
you.
a techno
Right.
but it's one of the technology challenges that you mentioned. It's not
Yeah.
something that you could just roll out.
No, and you see, that's the other part of it. We're talking here about banking information. So we must make sure that that channel that's provided to you, the customer, is secure. The security, because mobile phones inherently, let's say text banking, there is not much security with that. I mean, messages are saved in your inbox, your sent items.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's one part delivering that, but the customer education is a big part of it. You now have some banking information on your cell phone that you
Yes.
leave
Lying down
lying
somewhere.
I mean, some of us have passwords on the phone, great,
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's right. In terms of the channel management, what are the distribution? What are the channels
Right,
that
so,
you're using right now?
so we have the branches would be the predominant channel. Then secondly would be the ATMs. Second, internet banking, telephone banking, and when we have mobile banking, through mobile.
Through mobile banking. Do you have a sense of what proportion your customers are using? In
Well,
which
the branches,
segment?
most of the traffic, customer traffic, still is within the branch network. Although we have other channels like the ATMs, you can go into the ATM to deposit and withdraw cash. Customers still will go to the branches.
Are you seeing movement?
We're seeing movement. I mean, in terms of the percentages, you're seeing shift. But you would still, if you drive around now, like a month and week, you would still see banking halls pretty inundated.
Just visit a branch tomorrow.
There is some migration. I think it may be based on maybe age, maybe a factor. Too, you may see maybe younger customers now are comfortable with internet banking. But they would prefer to go to the branch to deal with something like a loan or a mortgage because they want that personal interaction.
The branches is definitely aging. I mean, when you visit the more rural areas, it is a social visit that they do. They have customers who go into a branch, say Feisbad or one of those places, every day, and it's just to have a conversation with somebody, share about their daughter, their granddaughter, that kind of thing.
And I mean, that's okay. I mean, that's what they're comfortable with, and that's banking for them.
And the facet of that too is that a lot of the older people don't trust the technology. And the other part of that as well, because with the direct deposit initiative that the Ministry of People and Social Development have going on with the banks, you can't give somebody, let's say somebody's 80, right? They may not have all their faculties in place, and you can't give them a bank card to use because they go in the ATM, somebody will try to get their PIN or take their money, so there are all kind of different factors that play into
the socio-cultural factors.
Yes.
Yeah. Not everyone is like my father doing internet banking at 70, whatever.
But as you're talking about the channels and the banks, what is the situation with bank books? This is
you mean
passbooks.
Trying to get away from that.
I know you're trying to get away from it, but there are a lot of things we try to get away from. It's not going to get away from us. What is the experience?
I think there's a sense that when you have the book and you physically go and you have the teller update the information, that information is more accurate than if it's done by any other means. So
it makes it tangible.
It's tangible that they feel that my money is actually here because it's in the book.
Okay.
I mean, I may go online and online may tell me my balance on my account, but that's different to actually seeing it in the book. And that's a cultural thing.
I can see the book. When I switch off the computer, I can't see it anymore.
Well, exactly.
But the thing is, the book may not be right.
I can see it.
Yeah, I can see it. So,
I can see it.
The transition to
I think more so to now the cards, because a lot of it now, a lot of transactions now are being initiated from a card, like your debit card. You would not, in fact, fill out vouchers now to go and withdraw funds and stuff. You swipe your card. And from that information goes into the bank platform and retrieves your account information. So we're moving actually from the passbooks and all of that to the use of like the debit cards, in terms of initiating transactions.
You still need to put some for the more mature folks. Pension.
For a little while.
For a little while still.
What we've had challenges, especially with the more mature people. So what they have been using is we have the record books. So we try to facilitate those occasions with the record book because the passbooks, we're trying to phase it out. We are going technology. We have to try and phase all the paper out because there's too much paper. As we know, 23 is dying. But to try and accommodate and meet those needs, we use the passbook, which is less expensive to produce. And it's still something, they will have in their hand, kind of thing. But it's not something that is encouraged.
So that is segmenting too. For the
part of your segment.
But it's all part of being human and customer service.
Yes. The international locations, Republic, Barbados, Grenada, Guyana, Cayman, and so on, are the products, services, and the channels consistently applied, or how is the marketing function managed
Yes and no. Because they have some of them, well, from Marsha's side, she will tell you, but from my side, you have legislation to deal with. You know, you may not be able to implement something wholeheartedly here the same way in another island because of laws that they may have, right? That is a challenge that we have, but we are going through the process of trying to standardize the products across the islands because we want the customer experience to be the same regardless of wherever they go. So if a major league customer leaves here and goes to Barbados, the experience would be the same. The benefits and things may be a little bit different, obviously, because you have different, because we have discount cards. You may have different merchants, different whatever. But the core benefits of the product remain the same with a few little customizations. Because it's like McDonald's. You can't go in there and present the same McDonald's that you would in the States. You have to customize. Right? And when Marshall is technology.
Well, yeah, so that in terms of electronic banking services, internet banking platform in Trinidad is the same in Guyana, it's the same in Barbados, is the same in Guyana. Blue Machine, that is the brand, is the same across the region. What may be different is models, because they may have had older models, but that is being phased out. So look and feel, services, what you can do at the Blue Machine is consistent throughout the region. Because I mean, a lot of it is it's the same technology platform in terms of those services. So it's easier to manage that.
Right.
Yeah, it's easier to manage that.
And so the marketing for the Caribbean is managed at the group.
Yes.
Well, it's managed at the group, but it's decentralized in the sense that the parent company may give guidelines, their product guidelines, their PR initiative guidelines, but there are marketing teams in each of these markets that develop their own campaigns following these guidelines.
Right,
Well,
but personalized for that
Their
location,
market,
that their
but
culture
minimal customization. I mean, really, because we really need to have a more consistent look and feel and everything across the group. So
as you mentioned, the customer experience, you want to have the
it's
same
consistent.
experience.
Consistent.
The objective is that is what it has to be.
Consistent.
But I mean, inside of that, I mean, you have challenges with you have cultural and social issues to deal with because the ideals of Barbados may not be the same as people here, say in Trinidad, Guyana, and you know, so there are challenges within that you have to deal with. So, here, take a picture.
But any of you involved in price determination? Right? Because from your perspective,
Yes, that's part of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, we will be responsible as marketing managers. We are responsible for pricing the products that we're responsible and services that we're responsible for. So we in fact recommend the pricing of this group.
So, would you say, given the competition in the market, let me see how many banks we have now.
Commercial banks,
Seven.
Seven commercial banks.
Would you say the Republic is a price maker? Do they follow Republic in terms of fees or?
Well, I don't know if they followed us, but we adjusted some of our fees and they adjusted theirs as well. So I don't know if it's follow.
So you're the
You're the
Well,
price
maker.
we are the price maker. And I think, we are the price maker. I mean, we have a brand at 175 years old. We have the marketing behind it. So we are able to maintain that position. And I mean, that is maintained because the quality of the service that is delivered to you must justify the cost. So I think we have the benefit of a strong brand and marketing and good products and services that will allow us to keep that position.
But I will tell you, we try. Part of my objective in looking at the thing is that you have to bear the customer in mind. It can't just be you just levy fees because you want to levy fees. It isn't done like that. Each fee has to be justified. Why do you want to do this? You know, what does it take to do this particular service? How do you calculate the manpower? You know, what it takes to get behind this job done, and the fee that will cover doing that.
So it's actually about looking at the cost, because I mean, they say sometimes people say, well, the market will determine the price, but you really actually have to know your cost. You need to know your fixed cost, direct cost. You must know your cost.
So it's got cost plus,
Yeah,
is it cost plus or value based?
It could be a mix of both, depending on the type
of service.
A type of
Type of
service,
service, yeah.
because the value based would, in terms of maybe the types of service, yeah.
So, good. Just to say, a scenario like if the other banks will lower the fee in a particular item you all offer, what do you all do in terms of the bank offering a lower price to what you all will offer?
You
How
mean
you-
if we respond to the
Yeah,
competition?
how you all respond to the competition?
We don't necessarily
We don't
always
necessarily
respond.
So you
have to
all mean-
If our
respond.
cost is justified, I mean, everybody has different operating expenses. They may find some other way to deal with whatever. We need to look at it. Doesn't mean that we wouldn't look at it, but it doesn't mean that we react. Because if we're doing something that is not going to cover what we are doing, it makes no sense lowering it just to be in line with the competition.
Okay.
I have had customers who said they do not mind paying a slightly higher fee, not that we are higher than anybody else. I'm not saying that, because we are actually quite competitive in the market. I mean, that's alluded to one of the things you have later on. We're quite competitive in the market when you look. There are other banks that will not call names that are more expensive to do banking with, if you look at it, if you really take a close look. They said, I don't mind paying a little bit more once I get the value for my money.
Yes.
And they would never say, I don't want to pay that fee. Once they're getting the service and the value for the money that they're paying, they do not have a problem paying the fee. Right?
Yes.
But if you want to charge me a whole set of money and I'm not getting what you promised to me, I have a difficulty with that.
Understood.
And that actually is a lot of feedback that we get, even from the very mature customers.
So,
Interesting.
so it's
Service.
it's mentioned that sometimes you have customers who are behaviorally loyal just simply because it's difficult to change, to
Yeah.
pick up your loans and mortgages and everything and move it. So what you're alluding to there is that you have customers who are actually attitudinally loyal, that they are with Republic not because it's difficult to move, but because they want
Relationship.
to
The
be.
relationship and the service that you get.
Yeah, because as we said, the banking products are the same across the board. What really differentiates me, the difference with customers, the service, my relationship with my bank, and how much value I place on that in terms of what and fees that I'm willing to pay for that.
And the feedback that you mentioned, this is something that the bank actively seeks to you continually
both ways.
research your
Both
customer
ways.
experience.
Yeah.
Because anytime you make a change, obviously not everybody's going to be happy with it. So you get negative and positive feedback.
Right.
So yes, and we do actively go out and get customers.
Okay.
Industry standards,
Yeah.
do they exist?
Yeah, well actually there are two, because there are two that I am aware of. There's the Code of Banking Practice. That is a formal document which outlines what banks are required to disclose to customers in terms of fees, service fees, and other aspects. And the second one is a recent one. It's not so much something that says your price should be, but the central bank has recently issued a residential mortgage market rate in 2011, where it's like a benchmark rate for mortgages that banks.
The MMR.
Yeah.
MMRR.
Yeah, it's a benchmark interest rate that the banks price and reprice mortgages.
Okay.
It is not the rate that the actual commercial bank charges, but it's just a benchmark interest rate. So those are the two I can think of in terms of standards that we would be governed by.
But the central bank would not come and say, okay, if you have this particular service, you're not supposed to charge more than this. They will watch at you in comparison to the other banks and what they offer, but they will not come and say to you, look, you need to cut this fee.
But there's also the Bankers Association, and within the Bankers Association is the agreement that certain, if we look at the marketing mix, that within the whole marketing concept within the financial services industry, that the Bankers Association get together and say, listen, we will not use, just for argument's sake, we will not use billboards. I know, just in terms of, are there any standards that might have been agreed
the
by
Bankers
the
Association is more from, it's from a holistic view, but is more in, they deal more with things like legal matters in making things easier to process and those kinds of things, or laws that they need to be changed to accommodate certain things to happen, fraud awareness, anti-money laundering, KYC, knowing your customer, those kinds of things they would deal with. They don't go into specifics like what you just said. It's, although they feel like they're a cartel, it is not a cartel.
It's an industry
advocate. It is not a cartel.
You didn't need to repeat it.
It's an industry changes to make banking easier for the customer and for bankers. That's the approach at Bankers.
The banks are governed by the code of banking practice. So all the commercial banks.
I'm not sure if I have any copies here. I will look and see if I have any copies.
It's actually on Republic TT.
And on BAC's website as well. It actually says it if you
it actually is quite detailed.
If you change your fees, these are things you must do. If you have to communicate, you have to communicate. Those kinds of things. There's also something else. Central Bank is actually being a lot more active with the banks as well as it relates to products and so, because now before you put a new product to market, you have to go to Central Bank to get approval for it first before you put it to market. So they're actually putting things in place.
That guideline has been around for a while now,
They're probably not
but enforcing it.
No, it's always since 2000.
I never
five about
you know better than me.
So there are guidelines in terms of the central bank as a regulator. There are guidelines now in terms of when products and services are launched, certain bits of information that must be provided in terms of risk profile of it. What is the risk of the customer, what is the risk of the bank, what are the features and benefits, what are the fees and all of that. That information now has to be provided to the regulator before the service could be launched.
Okay. How you all promote your product or services to the target market, to your target market?
It depends on the target market. It depends on the target market. Because I would not communicate to an adult the same way I would communicate to a teenager or a mature person, because they use different channels. Like for example, career builder, they don't like to read newspapers. Social network, they will read the newspapers online, but they will not physically pick up a paper and read it. So you have to know your different markets and what they're into, and all that comes in research. And then those are the channels you use to communicate them that are most effective for that market.
So I guess the other part of it would be promotion. We're talking about research campaigns, promotions, to increase usage of the service. And part of that too is like the measurement. I mean, it's one thing to develop a promotion, but you must have a tracking mechanism in place to be able to track the outcome, whether it be in units, sales, the number of accounts opened, and even getting customer feedback too on the promotion. What did they like? What didn't they like about the promotion?
What we basically do is we attach targets to each of our promotions campaigns, And I mean, Lisa will know that. And the success will tell on the how you reach the
how many loans booked,
and
how many
you reach those targets.
credit cards opened.
In other words, you have, if you're spending money, we have to justify to our executive team. If I spend this is what I will get back for it. So it has to equate back to dollars and cents. That's the bottom line.
So that if it was not as successful as you hoped, then that promotion will not be used.
Well, it could be used differently. You know, I mean,
it may be a certain aspect of the promotion did not work, as opposed to the whole thing. And when you do the post-mortem, being able to go into each of the components and see what worked and what didn't, and getting customer and staff feedback as well can inform that. You want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know, that's that kind of scenario. So
there's one very effective promotion is the Make It Happen loan, because since that has been launched, it comes back every year, so that
for Christmas time,
so that we know that the bank
across
has
the subsidiaries as well. Each market would have a loan campaign for Christmas.
It does deal with some of the bigger picture items. In the organization, marketing as part of strategic planning. How is that handled? How important is marketing in the whole strategic planning process? How involved is the marketing department? I'm asking a number of questions in one. I'm trying to
this department is core to the bank. We are one of the core teams to the bank, to the success of the bank. Because this is like the idea generation, development kind of pool, if you want to call it that.
So I guess when we think of the strategic planning process, so this is about developing the roadmap and end game and all of those things. And marketing would feed into that process. So for example, I was thinking about it, and there were two things I could think of. Like, part of that process is normally like external analysis. You know, we have the different components of the strategic plan. So external analysis, how are customers behaving? What are their needs? Are there new services? What are the opportunities that we could look at to offer new services? What are our competitors doing? What are they doing? So from that perspective, I can see the role of marketing in terms of strategic planning, because we are the pulse, we are close to the customer, we understand needs, expectations, behaviors, how that's changing, and what could be the opportunities for the bank in terms of new products, services.
So we could summarize it and say that marketing department is core, it's critical, it's key to the whole strategic planning process.
Yes.
And it is recognized as such within the organization.
It is because we have a structured approach to strategic planning, like many other large companies, and it is really like a core team comprising of marketing and different other business areas that are part of the planning.
Because the bank obviously will have an overarching objective, and whatever the other business areas do has to feed in and to meet those objectives. So we work from there and come down, right? And based on that, and that's how we would come up with different strategies and tactics that we would have to undertake to meet those.
Okay.
There's a lot of team collaboration. There's a lot of matrix planning going on. It's not in isolation.
Right. Okay. So get back to one of the academic type questions. External factors.
Well, you mentioned a number of them just now, but which would you say has the greatest impact on the
Well, okay, so for
the
channel, we're talking about the pestle or
pestle
or whatever the version is now.
Various versions.
Right. So, for channel management, I think the most important one would be technology. Because technology influences a lot of the channel innovation now. Now, when you think of, and a simple one would be actually the use of mobile phones. a mobile phone. Nobody walks out of their house now without a mobile phone. So for me, in terms of mobile banking, mobile payments, because literally now your mobile phone will become the equivalent of that wallet you have with all your bank cards and all of that, because you'll be using this phone now to conduct transactions, to transfer money between accounts, to pay your bills, and technology has a big role in there. Also, too, we see mobile payments where people are actually using their mobile phone to initiate swipe. It's called contactless technology, and basically, so like in New York and stuff, in the subway and stuff, you use your phone to swipe instead of actually paying cash or whatever. So for me, technology plays a very big role, and also I think at the end of the day can make things easier for customers, and it allows them some level of self-service, because now you don't have to rely on banking hours Monday to Friday. You are able to do banking 24/7 at your convenience, and that is what the value of technology will be for customers in terms of giving value to them. Going forward.
In terms of product development.
All the factors impact on me, and even all the factors impact on me, because right now, we're very liquid. People are not borrowing as they do. So all the banks have a lot of cash in hand. The investment instruments are not generating any great revenue. So you're kind of between a rock and a hard place. So everything impacts on me. What I was thinking, one other thing, Marsha, that may impact on you is illegal, because even with electronic payments and so, they have laws that have to be implemented to facilitate some of these things, because we don't have all the laws in place to deal with those things. We have, in my instance, you have this FATCA, which is this upcoming law that the US is implementing, where people who are deemed US persons, the banks have to withhold money on any US deemed income, else the banks are going to be charged a penalty, a 30% penalty. So you have all these things that are, impact on how you do business, and the things that you have to do to make sure you're in a line legally, and all of those other things before.
Who is responsible for monitoring all of these external factors?
Market intelligence. Well, all of us, but primarily
them. Because we're regulated too. When we have changes of this nature, it will feed into like that. And like that. So the industry as a whole would be aware of. And I guess once it's fed into BAT, then each individual bank will go off and look at what is there and determine what is the impact, what is the assessment, what sort of procedural changes do we need to make, do we have to make system changes.
And most of our key people are on different boards in different industries, so you get feeling and you get intelligence from it as well, because that factor is going to be a biggie. And it's not just banks, it's insurance companies, FATCA, F-A-T, the Financial Act, something or whatever it is, foreign something.
FATC.
FATC.
Yeah. It was introduced by the US in 2010, I believe, with some regulations they had, because basically we are being their tax collectors. Right? We are doing their dirty work for them at our cost, because our systems and so will have to be changed, because you have to change your onboarding processes and all of that, plus deal with your current customers. So it is going to impact insurance companies, investment companies,
Banks.
It's broad, right?
Well, just to deal with ethical issues. Ethical issues. Being in the industry that you're in, certain that ethics is a major consideration. How does it impact on the marketing function?
Okay, well, what do you think about it is, I think integrity is a core part of what customers expect of the bank. It's the base. It's on that basis that there's mutual trust between the bank and the customer. We take ethics very seriously in the bank. In fact, we actually have a code of ethics and conduct that all employees of the bank are required to sign annually, indicating their agreement to abide by with all the laws and rules that govern banking operations. We take this seriously. We must operate ethically. We are transparent. We compete ethically. I mean, I can't say we've had instances with the department. I mean, that is the overall basis. I mean, we're not going to accept anything but that.
Yes. I think sometimes we as a bank, maybe I guess maybe being too ethical is not a bad thing, but sometimes it doesn't work in your favor when you're transparent with things, because it looks like you're the bad guy out when actually in fact everybody else is doing it, is just not saying anything, but we are being upfront and say, look, this is the charge, right? But others may hide it.
Hidden.
It's hidden, so we always look like the bad guy out, but at the end of the day, we are not doing anything wrong or nothing that is, that nobody else is doing, and that kind of thing. So that is the kind of organization we are, very transparent. They tell you, look, this is the thing. We're not going to hide from you and say, this is what it is. And sometimes you pay for it, but that's how we operate, and I think we should continue to operate that way.
The code of ethics is something that every employee has to sign every year.
There's a confidentiality
annually.
agreement when you join the bank that you have to sign as well.
So it actually speaks about information, disclosure of information. A lot of things are covered in there. Customer information all about.
This has nothing to do with what we're discussing, but has anybody refused to sign it?
No, I
don't think you can.
If you can't.
If you want to be employed here, you can.
Yeah, you can. It's not optional. It's not optional.
Because it's a bank with with people's money, and you have to have a certain, a certain caliber of people. I mean, you'll get the ones who will filter through cracks, and that's just normal, and you deal with it.
As we on ethics, you don't have to answer, but if you could. It was brought to my attention. Guy was explaining to me, he had a matter in the industrial court, and the lawyer was able to say from 3 years back, 4 years back, when he got his salary, how much money he withdrew, and he said he never authorized that information. He never authorized anybody to get that information, so he was a bit surprised how the information would have been available. So what I'm asking in terms of, is there any law say that information have to be provided in a legal entity, or if somebody could request that unknown?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a legal expert, but I mean,
I guess it will depend on the case, and if it was a court order or something, then that's something different. The bank will have to.
It was not court order.
Well then.
No, I don't want to know. So we wouldn't. Just before we close off, what I want to find out, I'm a SME, all of us here are SME. What are the products you all offer to SME, or I'm in the process of probably looking to expand or change course?
You're not going to tell it, because if it's startup, no, they would refer you to NetGo. But if you're already existing and you have facilities, then there are facilities that you can avail of.
Okay, then target.
Were you looking at loan or more advice, or what is it?
Loan, likewise, in terms of we spoke about relationship. I'm not satisfied with the relationship I'm having with my bank. To be honest, the reason I'm saying that, when I go to the bank to get a loan, for the amount of years I with them, most time you produce a contract, you want quick cash in order to facilitate, and the amount of up and down have numerous fallout.
It's not with Republic, right?
No.
Okay, just
right?
making sure.
You're
in the wrong bank.
And I've reached the point in terms of have to be justifying.
Your banker?
on every occasion. Why? And that's what I'm saying in terms of.
And you've been in business for over
8 years.
8 years.
So, not to say, based on this interview, I like what I'm hearing. I've never got this.
See?
Before.
Marketing.
So I appreciate
if you were looking for a bank, where would you like, which branch would be convenient for you?
Independence.
Well, all right.
Hilton.
Well, all right. We could speak to the branch
Excellent
sales manager. And
Hilton Highland is his name.
we set up
Hilton.
I
to
didn't
meet with
know.
someone and sort you out.
Excellent
Okay.
man.
He is a person.
So
So if you want, you
Excellent.
can give us your information if that's okay.
Yeah, that's
You want to go there now?
You want to go there now?
Can I know?
I don't
Right.
think
But we
we
can-
I'll call Hilton.
And yeah.
When I come out of the office, I'll call
No
Hilton and
problem.
tell him to expect you. Let me get you.
We talk,
We
just to
forgot
see,
ask for
before we,
business cards.
we would like to extend our deepest and warm appreciation, both Marsha and Lisa, for taking time to give us this information, vital information. Indeed, this is a memorable moment for me, being schooled in terms of how the system actually operates, what goes into making this happen. And we'd like to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedule
Sure.
to provide this information.
She would take
I'd like to
RBC book in
thank you all
front of
heartily.
Okay, you're
You're
most
most
welcome.
welcome.
I would say, I could say personally, thank you very much for taking the time off. It helped clear up some of the academic jargon. I'll be able to relate it better.
I agree with you. I understand where you're coming from.
They give me a better appreciation for the whole marketing. In fact, it helps me in terms of looking at my own
Yes.
business in terms of.
Yeah, I think what happens too is after you've done your MBA, you have all this theoretical stuff, but when you come back to the office, you actually do it without realizing you're
You're
following
doing
the
it.
textbook, huh?
Yeah.
And it's only when you sit down, it's like, oh, we were just doing penetration pricing. Because it becomes
You know, quality technical terms, but you actually
Yes,
do
yes.
it.
when you
Some
do it,
conscious
some,
apply.
Yeah.
subconsciously it remains in the back, and then
I
in terms of how you think.
I think though that is a function of the age of the bank. That Republic is a very mature organization.
Yes.
So it has these processes have
Ingrained
actually
in
ingrained
the
in
DNA, yeah.
the organization.
That's correct.
So it's good to know.
Actually, it helps me as well because I'm also seeing that something that I was doing with natural. I say, oh, that's what I'm doing. That's what it's called.
Yeah, it's called. It just gives you this nice fancy too.
Again, ladies, thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
I thank
welcome.
you as well, that having spent time at Republic, I knew a little of what marketing was
Yeah.
doing, but it was really nice to hear, from people who are in it, all the work that you're doing and what goes into into running this organization. But thank you very, very much.